It's a bit embarrassed that still in 2014, our lives are surrounded with violence.
We need to work together. We are making a journey. There's no perfect person, but at least there exists change.
And for me, AVP is the start of, bringing humanity back into humans.
Que todos deberíamos de recibir los talleres de paz. Nos genera una conciencia de buenas relaciones, de una defensa por los derechos, de amar lo que tenemos y amar a los demás.
I will say AVP was a really helpful thing, and AVP is my strength.
I think many soldiers realize the legend about trying to win the other, the legend about this one are bad and we are the good ones and we need to fight them. When you see poverty, when you see pain, when you recognize houses you see that are similar to your houses, when you notice that other warriors are feeling orders from the other side like you are feeling orders, and that eventually you cannot really beat the other one. You can hurt him, but prepare to be hurt yourself. You can hurt him for several times until he managed to raise his head, find a new technology, or catch you when you're sleeping. So for me, the legend of power, the myth of power, the myth of if you are strong enough or tough enough, it can help you solve the problem, was broken during my service in the army. It was 3 years. I think that today, after that, I can understand the tools of AVP and non-violence resistance better. I can understand that in the long term, non-violence will always win, will always bring more fruits to both sides than any violent measure can achieve. Violent measure can only achieve, at the best, some kind of short period of ceasefire. It can never solve the serious problem. Humiliating the other will only bring him more determined to ask back for his respect, because we are human beings. We will always look for a better place or a better way to claim your respect. One of the ways they encourage you to fight and to use more and more power is that you think your story is so unique, that you have some kind of a big role in the world, that you are the good ones and they are the bad ones. But actually, when you meet so many neighbors from other countries that have the same bloodshed for centuries or for decades, and they stop it, they now live in peace. I'm talking about we are now in Ireland. They had a story of fighting and killing one another for decades. We're talking with people from Africa that have tribes or neighbors fighting one another for a long time, doing massacre to one people to the other. So you understand your story is not so special, and that you can just have a choice. When do you want it to stop? It can happen now. It could have happened 20 years ago, and it can last another 100 years, like the 100 years where, like, the Israelis and Palestine already have been fighting. All history is full with nations and communities that keep fighting until enough people had enough courage to move forward using smart tools and strengthening one another in order to convince people about a peaceful vision. It's really hard when you are inside of the violent to imagine that you and your neighbor will ever live a peaceful life, that he can be a person that you can be a good neighbor to. But being surrounded with so many colleagues that are living the example, that learn to live at least with their neighbors in a peaceful way, really set it as a realistic reality, that the fact that we have been fighting for 100 years now, and we are fighting through these days, shooting missiles one on the other, that it's not have to continue. It could continue for a day or for a year until the peaceful voices will be strong more than the fighting voices.
My name's Agetraya Giza, from Kenya. I'm a mother of two and married. I'm an AVP facilitator, and apart from AVP, I also facilitate other programs like mediation, trauma healing, and a program on social injustices, nonviolent movement for social change. I was born in a polygamous family, and I'm the seventh born of 9 siblings. And we lived in a village for quite some times of our life. And I've been doing, after school, I went for secretarial course as something I thought it will be my profession, not because that's what I planned, but I went for that because of financial strains. But as I grew up, I changed into being an AVP facilitator. That was from 2003, and that's all I do. Once I did the AVP workshop by myself, I experienced personal transformation, and this was due to an exercise called human to human, where you are put in pairs and you look each other in the face, and one person is closing their eyes, and then you're asked to see, it's a meditation process. A facilitator leads it and says, look at the other person, see how far they've come to their life, look at the lines of pain, look at the lines of trauma, signs of giving up. And then when I looked at this partner I had, who was a good friend of mine, I was seeing myself in this person, and it was kind of mirroring myself and my past, which was not an easy life. And then I realized that there's nothing I can do with my anger if I don't let it down and work on issues. And so when I do this workshop, it brings me back to where I was as an individual, what transformation took place, and I see it as an important piece to help my society in being positive. My visioning of the world is there is a need to interconnect and interlink. It doesn't matter which program I'm holding purely, but how can my program feed into another program? I'm one person who does various programs in peace building in Kenya and East Africa. And one thing that I've really realized is not all these programs each has its own responsibility. They much connect and they're all about peace buildings, but they respond to different needs in the society. I got trained on other skills, and then I realized that I am living in a society whereby women are not respected. Women's voices are not heard. And I said, hey, we have to make a change if we have to go that way. Now, if I have to be a Christian peace person, I should say, oh, let it go, I'm a Christian, I don't need to bother myself about that. But hey, I have to stand for my rights and defend the people I know. And this has been my model. So my visioning of this AVP is to look at that and also interlink with other programs to fill the needs and the gaps of the societies in the world. And when I did AVP, it helped me to be bold and talk. But then as I went on, did more programs, I realized that I can stand as an activist to defend people, not knowing what I need to do. We need to work together. We are making a journey. There's no perfect person, but at least there exists change. Peace means a lot. Peace means a community that is happy. Peace means health. Peace means transparency. How do people live? Peace means accepting our different interests and putting them on the table and share. Peace is heaven. I mean, peace is a place of joy. It's not easy to see that now, but peace is how do I make myself be available at the reach of the other people, and also for myself, for continuity of life, without hurting anybody or anything. Yeah.
Desarrollamos talleres a nivel de varios departamentos en Colombia. Estamos trabajando con los departamentos del Cauca, del Valle del Cauca, de Risaralda, de Caldas, la parte de Antioquia, Arauca y departamento del Meta. Son departamentos de alto riesgo, les llamamos zonas rojas de conflicto armado. Tenemos contactos, personas con las que vengo trabajando. Yo trabajo con comunidades afro y comunidades indígenas. Y a través de diferentes talleres hemos empezado a introducir en esos lugares. El contacto, ¿cómo se hace? Ellos piden la autorización a los jefes de la guerrilla para que me permitan entrar en esas zonas de alto riesgo. Y pues muchas veces inclusive he estado dictando los talleres del PAP con otros facilitadores y la misma guerrilla está al frente escuchando. Uno de los ejemplos que tengo interesantes en las zonas de conflicto es un taller que se realizó con jóvenes que son sacados de la guerrilla. Significa que se hacen diferentes acciones para poderlos sacar del movimiento de la guerrilla y son jóvenes entre 15 y 18 años indígenas. Estos jóvenes se involucran con la guerrilla porque no tienen más opciones de trabajo y se les ofrece un dinero o alguna modalidad en los que ellos se interesan. Y estos jóvenes, cuando se les ha dado los talleres del PAP, ahora quieren también facilitar, han recibido los talleres y quieren ayudar a otros jóvenes, lo que nosotros llamamos desmovilizarse, para que los jóvenes no se involucren en estos actos. Nosotros trabajamos con varias comunidades indígenas, unos de ellos son los guambianos, otros son los nasa, y con ellos, con estas comunidades, ellos les gusta mucho la cultura PAP, porque ellos saben que hay algo dentro de ellos mismos, en su interior, que necesita aprender y profundizar más, discernir más, no hacerse daño los unos a los otros y crear ese ambiente de paz y de cultura entre ellos. Para llegar donde los indígenas nos vamos en un transporte que se llama chiva. Es un bus, le llaman chiva, bus escalera, es un bus que tiene entradas por todos lados y es muy grande, puede llegar a los lugares más altos en la montaña. Pero también nos toca transportarnos en motos, porque hay lugares donde no hay camino para ir donde los indígenas. Pero para trabajar con las mujeres víctimas del conflicto armado que les han asesinado sus esposos, sus hijos o sus esposos que son pastores de iglesias en lugares muy lejanos, nos toca a veces en canoas o en lanchas muy pequeñas. La primera vez que monté en una lancha, yo iba así quieta 5 horas sin moverme porque me parecía que me iba a ir, porque tenemos que atravesar unos ríos muy grandes, es pura selva, ríos muy grandes y también hay al frente el mar, entonces es bastante difícil, pero allí llego, o a pie, caminando con mis botas y hago lo que tenga que hacer por llegar a esos lugares. Que todos deberíamos de recibir los talleres de PAP. Nos genera una conciencia de buenas relaciones, de una defensa por los derechos, de amar lo que tenemos y amar a los demás.
I would have came into AVP as a trainee in 2006. At the time I was in Mountjoy prison. I was serving 17 years. I suppose for me AVP changed the direction in my life. I view it like it's planting a seed. That's what it's like for me. Someone planted a seed. I would have been the type of person who grew up and didn't know there was an alternative. And I know that may sound strange to most people, but I akin it to sort of being in a dream-like state, whereas I know I've done wrong, but I'm not fully awake yet to take responsibility for it. And for me, AVP is the start of bringing humanity back into humans. In Ireland at the time, there was a spate of robberies, house robberies, burglaries, but they weren't robbing anything in the house. What they were doing was they were breaking into houses to get the keys of any powerful car that was in the driveway and stealing the cars. And two of the lads who were at the workshops, that's what they specialised in. They were car thieves. And there was a lady at an outside facilitator who came in who was training to be a facilitator. And she shared at one of the meetings. And I think the lads had formed a bond with her. So it affected them, what she said about her inability to sleep, and she wanted to move from her home, and someone had done it to her. And they came into the cell to me, and they sat down and they asked me, they said, like, why was she so upset? I mean, like, nobody went into her room and tried to rape her, or nobody went into her room and beat her up, or nobody hit her or anything like that. Why? They didn't understand the concept of psychological violence. They only understood physical violence. So after speaking to them and explaining to them and allowing them to process it, I don't know whether you've ever seen a shark bite its prey. When a shark bites its prey, it's like a third eye closes over on them. Well, that's the way the two kids went. The two kids, it was like, that's what it looked like. It looked like they closed over and sort of, now I understand. And then two lads went on to become really, really good facilitators. Because I think for the first time, transforming power gave them the ability to empathise, to actually put themselves in the pain of another person. And that for me that was wonderful for me. That was really, really good. That was, you know, in the environment that we were living in, that these two lads could actually then empathise with another prisoner on the landing. All because of AVP. AVP is not about a person. AVP is about the community. AVP is about people, not about the individual. You know, the individual can only bring a message. That's all. I brought my message into the prisons. You know, and it's flourishing in that. We're educated to be workers, not to be humans. I think we've forgotten that. I think that's sad in this world. It's that, like, you know, we grow up and it's about our wants are so much more than our needs. You know, and it's sad and it'll always be confrontational when people, you know, have more than what they need. Because it's just not necessary. And when people like me, who took half their life to understand that, you know, there is an alternative to violence, and there is an alternative to confrontation, and there is a way of actually sitting down with a person and resolving differences without resorting to violence, irrelevant of what that person is or where they come from, until such time as, like, people actually understand that. And someone once said to me, it's common sense, but common sense is not so common.
My father put me into the prison because I got married to a intercaste man. So I know what is prison. My father was from a Brahmin community, and for him it was, his ego was hurt. So he was a very violent man. So I know how hard it is it was so hard for my mother to cope with him. And I saw that from my childhood. So I always wanted to run away from the home, and I was thinking this is the only way I can run away. He came to know I got married to a intercaste man. He was just, I mean, I think there was certain fear was there in his mind. Otherwise, if that thing would have been happened in a small village or small town, he would have been killed me also and my husband also. He was that terror. And when he put me into the prison, he just didn't have any feeling, didn't have any feeling for me to, and he put me in that. He framed a case in such a way where all judges and the lawyers were in favor of his case. Initially, I thought, oh, it's such a bold thing to go into the prison, but it's not. It makes you so emotional. Two things will happen. Either very angry, aggressive person will become, other person will learn something by staying there. But in Indian prisons, I think hardly there was a scope to learn anything. some of the women were just in the prison for no reason. I mean, there was no such case against them, but they were put into the prison. And that also by the man with whom they were involved. And it is such a sad story to listen what was happening. And my anger started getting so high and high. It was extremely difficult because I was, I think, 4 or 5 months pregnant at that time. But my first daughter, then she died because of all those problems and all. She born premature, and even I have gone through a hard. My husband started behaving weird with me then. He never thought that things will go this far, but then he started behaving very badly. Then that hatred of man started in my heart. I was so shocked to have that experience of my husband. But it was in my mind completely that if he will beat me, I will leave him. The very moment I will leave him. Once he did, twice he slapped me, twice he beat me up. But then I decided I will leave him. And by that time, I was having 2 children. First was my daughter, and when I was pregnant at second time for my son, that time he really harassed me like anything, which was just, I mean, the only bad thing, I mean, worst thing what I was watching is that every man was like that. Of course, I have come through very few men, but my husband, to whom I was loving, and I've been to prison for him, he also turned out to be the same. So when I have come across AVP program, I saw that it was for the prison and to deal with the anger, because I was not behaving with my children the way I should as a mother, and I always hate man. So when I used to look at my son, I used to feel very angry with him. I used to beat him very bad. But one day I sat and I felt so bad for him because the way I beaten him up. And I was just supporting my daughter, but not my son, as my own child, because of this hatred. But when I have come across AVP and I have seen that whosoever will have a deep hurt in their life, how to deal with that. And there was a very good methodology to go through to understand really our personal anger and how to create our own space to deal with our own anger. Till that time, I was not able to understand man properly, like why it's happening. Still, that hatred was there in my mind. After doing prison workshop, I was just sitting, why this thought is coming again and again that I should not hate man. I should respect man also. It's not, I should not generalize my personal experience with every man. Then I did 40 days fast to overcome this anger against, the hatred against man. And when I went to Oxford for first international gathering, slowly I really started understanding man, their problems, why they do this, how the cultural issues are connected with their behavior and how they conduct in the society and with the wife and with their friends and all. At the moment in India, so many things are happening. Every 10th girl is being trafficking by the people, and rapes are taking place. And what I have understood is that Constitution itself is not enough to change the society. Groups like AVP should work hard in India to change a little bit. I'm not saying one fine morning everything will be changed, but I need to understand more and more how I can go, how I can communicate, how I can learn from the people what they are going through, because there are various issues in India related to women's violence, and it's very painful. And I have to handle my own problems, whatever they are, because my children were growing. I have to take care of them. I have to provide everything for them. So I have to learn how to deal with, in which I will say AVP was a really helpful thing, and it was AVP is my strength.